let's get into the MLB because, Brett, you and I were wrong. We were pessimistic, but baseball's back.
Well, kind of. I mean, it came back from the dead, and then they didn't even give us a start date, so I'm not entirely sure. They're like, oh, baseball will be back on one of these few days, so we'll see.
They said July 23rd or 24th, which is interesting because that's before the NBA or the NHL have either theirs planned, and the players are supposed to be reporting by July 1st, so we'll see how this all goes. But they're going to have the teams play at their home facilities, so that seems like a lot more risk of exposure, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, New York was talking about shutting their borders down, so what happens if the Tampa Bay Rays have to come up and play the Yankees, or we can even do one of those cross interleague games where you have Miami versus Boston or something like that, and then that team's flying.
Miami, Toronto.
Miami, Toronto, that's an international border. I mean, baseball's got a lot to figure out, it feels like.
So it's 60 games, 40 of which are within your own division. The other 20 are within the division of the opposite conference. So, for example, NL East and AL East. But that kind of makes it a little jaded when you're talking about a regular postseason that's not expanded when they're talking 10 teams, I believe, still.
Yeah, I didn't hear much about that. I know the DH is coming for 2020 for both leagues, but not 2021, which is kind of
Yes.
odd also. Because I'm pretty sure it's coming in the next CBA, so like why even why even really fight it? But okay,
Madison
whatever.
Bumgarner.
Madison Bumgarner. He
He
was
wants
the lone wolf.
he
Him
wants
and
to hit.
Syndergaard were the lone wolves.
Well, I guess, and then there's Shohei Otani,
Otani.
and what's
But
the
it doesn't help
Cincinnati
Otani.
Red
It doesn't help
Lodano?
Otani. He's a DH. He's an American. So
Yeah,
it's
but when
really
he's a pitcher, he
Syndergaard
also
and Bum
bats.
and Bumgardner, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll throw Degrom in there because he was drafted as a shortstop.
The coronavirus risk seems to be increasing, and there are a lot of states that are continuing to spike. I mean, Texas, Arizona, Florida, states where there's large populations, and large populations where there's multiple baseball teams within those states, each of them. So this is even going to start getting tricky when we're talking about if players are catching the coronavirus and how that's going to work. Because apparently there's going to be a separate list for the coronavirus players that is for an undetermined amount of time on how many games they have to be out or days.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the coronavirus, how about the Texas Rangers thinking there's going to be fans in their ballpark?
Or the Phillies, who have had four more test positive, which brings the team total to 12.
That is alarming.
That is
12.
very alarming.
And
And that is just from what, uh, voluntary workouts, I guess, or just from them being out in out in public
I
at their
mean,
home.
so I'm thinking, and again, it's tough. This is not an apples to apples comparison, right? But in the National Women's Soccer League, they kicked out the Orlando team because they had six positive tests. So they removed an entire team for six. Are we going to remove the Phillies? Like, I
This
mean,
seems
probably not.
fragile. This seems fragile. It all seems so fragile. I mean, Disneyland in California is not opening. Who knows about Disney World in Florida?